right? So we were working on all these areas. And then we started a health restaurant. Then when I see men's hair, if it's not in good shape, I used to push them and take it to my barber and say, it will grow in few weeks, don't worry, it will be good. So the men were, if you look at today, I mean, pardon me, the ladies, right? Wherever, now today, in my, and we all know that men are in the workplace, if you see everywhere, men are not doing that great. So this exercise, what we have decided is to, now when I want to get this theme, so first thing came to mind is these three gentlemen, you know. And so we debated on this. And so this is like a launch for us. We want to take this monthly, and my good friend King Ratnam, you know, he was very close with me last 15 years. We work on this area silently. And last 2 months, we did 1 or 2 cases, and we found I mean, when they are mentally sick, it's not easy. You can't cure overnight. So this exercise, what we want to do now is, it's a launch, and support us wherever we can, and we will take this man to next level. So if you go around the store up and down and see, there are a lot of world-class stuff. To wear world-class, men has to be perfect, right? Being perfect is not rocket science, it's very easy, right? And so I think I will not take any more time. Let's, we will discuss with our panelists, and please enjoy. And again, if you're after the program, you can again go for another round of meal. And once again, thank you very much.
Okay, so let me introduce the panel and have them sit, because I feel awkward when they are standing there. So we have 4 important gentlemen here who have achieved in their own ways, who are notables in their own fields. Firstly, we have Mr. Yasas Hevage, who is an entrepreneur and a sales and marketing coach, and also happens to be a cyclist who is a cycling enthusiast. We also have Ajay Veer Singh, founder Colombo Fashion Week and the College of Fashion and Design. We also have Dr. Sunet Rajavasan, sorry, I should have got that right, Rajavasan, who is a physician and the director of the family clinic, and also is also an educator and examiner for the College of General Practitioners of Sri Lanka and the Royal College of General Practitioners in the UK. And of course, we also have the managing director for the premium menswear, Hamidia, Mr. Fawzul Hamid. And can I please ask you to come and have your seats, please? Thank you. Have a seat. No, just sit anywhere you like. So, yeah. So as they are here, I just like to, I asked permission from Mr. Fawzul to say a few words myself to get a start to this conversation. I don't need the glasses anymore. So I'm, for those of you who don't know me, I'm King Ratnam. I'm a filmmaker and an actor. I happen to be working in the local industry and also the industry elsewhere, especially the Indian industry. I'm starting there. So anyway, just to add on to that, if you have seen Muthaiya Muralidharan's biopic, I happen to play Arjuna Ranatunga in that movie. Now you know who played that. Okay, so that's the small intro to me. So I'd like to share my thought process on this matter. See, I was overweight from the time I remember. So my peak was 120 kilos at one point. And and I have now on my own, with my own style of exercise, which is called the healing towel. I'm interested to talk to you about it if you're interested later on. I have reversed myself now to about 85 kilos. I look much better, I think. At least I know that. And this process has taught me a lot of things along the way. And the main thing that this has taught me is balance, finding your balance. Now, when the body is overweight, your core takes the hit because you have, your weight, the core cannot carry your weight, and your spine takes a hit, and your balance is lost, right? You lose balance. And your body starts functioning as separate parts. The bladder takes on, before the head, the hands go haywire, the legs go haywire, your balance takes a hit. And so the process of coming back to shape, for me at least, has been finding my balance, my core balance. And I think this is the key with everything. And the body is connected to the mind, and the mind is connected to the soul. So that's why we have body, mind, and soul. And the balance in the mind, so what you feed in to your mind. We live in a world of data, and we feed in all sort of data into our minds, isn't it? And if you want to be open about it, we feed in a lot of crap. Men sometimes are very famous for that. We do put in a lot of crap inside our mind, and that can take the balance away. It can tilt the balance towards something not so positive. And the soul, you see, I'm a believer of God, and God, the great creator, he made a very tricky thing. He gave a free mind, a great body, and he also kept a conscience in there to keep your balance. Because if you lose your conscience and your soul, then you are in trouble of losing your soul. And of course, the soul is connected to the spirit. And the spirit, for it to be free, the mind, body, and soul needs to be in balance. So this is my small learning of my journey of 45 years in this world. And I am still learning, and I think it's a learning until you take your last breath. So having said that as an intro, I'd like to open the discussion to the panel and hear them talk about it. Over to you, Mr. Fauzo.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you, King. Thank you, everyone. Now, is something which going to be, for me, I'm not expert in this, but yet the subject, the subject is something we all men need to now understand, right, and learn. Okay, let me start with Yaso. Yaso, we all know that he is a great marketeer, a cyclist, he does a lot of social work, CSR work, and Yaso, now, all right, sorry. Yasas, now, your question is, why do men neglect their mental health, and what can we do about it?
So after you invited, let's start thinking about it, right? So I'm just going to share some things on one side, I think with school we lost play.
Yeah.
We lost play. We have sport and there's no play. So when there's no play, there's no active lifestyle. Active body is what keeps somebody, the whole chemicals flowing, and you're part of, you feel confident. So now we've lost play, little bit of sport, and we are trying to figure out how do you be that, if a man who's supposed to be a hunter, we came from that hunting era, and I think that's gradually showing in the physics and the way people think. So okay, one side of it, right? But I don't know the answer for this. Second aspect is, it's a very complicated world. Lot of expectations. You expect men to deliver, and they don't have the strengths they used to have. They don't have the mental toughness that they had in school, that they fell. Now, yesterday you were talking about, you're playing football, you fell, and you got up. Now you fall on a Nintendo, probably, and you can restart. So you still have to be the man and lead in certain areas, but you don't have you have been tamed. That animal has been fully tamed, either over-tamed. And then he is put in the jungle to survive. In the business jungle, corporate challenges, job losses, so he has to now take this. So I think we have lost the plot and running in different directions, which is what this discussion will evolve into, getting the men to, even the women to understand. And the other side is, we've been celebrating women for a long time, because there was inequality. We had to give a lot of room for women to shine, which was fair. But in that thing, we totally lost the men's story. Men went and did whatever they want. And now suddenly we realize the man, he has gone a little, tamed, and you can't find men now, right? So again, there are a few moving parts, Maza. So I think the starting step is to discuss it. I think health and mental wellness is a common topic for everyone. But then, so active lifestyle has been replaced trying to do exercise. Now today I rode here, so whole day I've been active. Cycling. I have not been driving. But if you're in maybe Singapore, you will be walking. But the world has moved into being active rather than trying to do exercise, because everybody doesn't have to do structured exercise. Of course, Bilal is here. But then if you're active, mindfulness. As he said, the mobile phone has taken over. People don't have time to be mindful. So I think some of these things have to be discussed as to figure out, okay, how do I now find a mindful, active lifestyle, which, now the doctor is here. I think that solves most of the issues, so that you can find sense out of this jungle that you're living in. Ideas. So first cut, I leave it on for the discussion.
All right. I think, thank you, great one. Now let me go to my good friend Ajay. Ajay and me play football, and he's more fitter guy than me, better height, long legs. And okay, Ajay, how can friends and family support men in mental well-being?
So first of all, Fazul, thank you for setting all this up, because I think it's a good discussion, and I feel it's also a huge topic. It's a huge topic. So as Yasas was saying, that once you start talking about it, once you start, thinking and dwelling on it, a lot of exposure comes, and people start thinking it's not hidden, it's not like something that you slide, on the side. So half the problem is solved when you know that it can be addressed and spoken of, number one. Secondly is that, because of this whole social media, like how I see you on the phone now, how do I say, a very sophisticated young Fazul is on the phone most of the time, and he's late for all the meetings, right? Now, one of the reason is because not his fault, because the social media keeps you switched on throughout. When there was no social media, or we just had phones, you're not smartphones, you were not switched on. Now you're switched on. So because the media wants to grab you, so you switched on. The moment you are switched on the phone, you isolate yourself from your environment. Once you isolate yourself with the environment, you have less time with your friends, less time with your family, less time with your, like guys to go out, and suddenly your community starts shrinking. So they say people who don't live in community, they end up falling sick earlier, they die earlier, right? So community is such an important thing to create. Community could be like 5 friends, 6 friends, expanded, bigger, right? So now, for what can you, how do you take the next steps so that your family and friends who are around you, you have to start setting up community again around you. People you can call, people you can hang out, but obviously there's a big barrier. How do you keep that smartphone on the side, right? And with TikToks, this scrolling, like you're like zombies, right? So the moment it's a call that we need to take. Whether are you on a like I'm equally bad, but point is really have to sometimes after 20 minutes think, what the heck are you doing? You're not usually scrolling, and you could have been talking to your friend, talking to your son, asking this thing. Now, those are first things that start isolating you, and the moment you come into the isolation zone, your mental thing starts getting affected. So the pressures of that thing start coming in. So, how family and friends can help? Well, more than them, it's you who need to start reaching out again. When you start reaching out, you start building community around you. Suddenly, you'll see there's a positivity. Even if there's negativity, it doesn't matter. At least you're talking. So that community building is very important, right? So earlier we used to have communities. Families, grandparents, they all would live. Now everything is isolated, right? So that is first big thing that we need to, if we can switch that around, right? So you'll see that suddenly the health will start coming back, and health means, I'm saying mental is the most important part of it, right? Others, we never, why did we not have mental health issues earlier? Yes, there were some, because their communities were intact.
Good one. Thank you. Right. Dr. Sunit. Now, see, I was surprised, there is a doctor who talks so much about in mental health. When I did a small research, it was so interested. there's so much things you can give it back. And we were debating how we can work together, help the men who need their support. So, doctor, what challenges do men face in seeking mental health support compared to women?
Right. Firstly, Mr. Amit, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And your question, the answer is quite complex. It's many layers. It's what society expects of men, because the expectations are so high. And we've been, even my generation, the junior generation, we've been brought up in this community or in this society where men should internalize everything. Men should be tough. You have phrases like you cry like a girl. That inherently means that men can't cry. Right? And men are looked down upon for expressing their emotions, for releasing them, rather. So when you don't release emotions, it becomes very toxic. It builds up inside. And that can lead to complex behavioral changes. We've seen that happening. And that's why it's very important for men to emote, or rather be, at least at the very least, accept their emotions. And the problem here is society's expectations of men and the same standards, or the false standards rather, that men set for themselves also. Because again, it's part of social media as well, where society expects men to be at a certain level, and when men don't meet those expectations, they tend to lock themselves in, because it's easier not to expose your insecurities, inadequacies, rather than be called out for it. And this culture in itself needs a paradigm change. I'll touch upon something that you said actually, Asas, about the fact that women have been celebrated for a long time than men have. To give you an idea, this is partially because men don't, until the problem becomes really, really bad, men tend to ignore things until it becomes malignant. And to give you a simple idea of, to give an example of this, now the breast cancer movement has been happening since the 1980s. That's the pink ribbon of what I'm wearing right now. So the men's health movement, or the November movement, was taken seriously only after 2012. There's a 30-year gap between when breast cancer was suddenly, made aware of and all these activities started, and when men's health, enough men had to die of prostate cancer for it to be recognized like, there's a problem, right? So this is, to answer your question, it's at many layers. It needs to happen from society's point, from that end, from men themselves who need to learn to accept themselves at the very core, and be more in touch with their feelings and not be ashamed of emoting. Men can cry. I always say this, men can cry. There's nothing saying that you can't. I hate this phrase like you run like a girl or you cry like a girl, right? Crying and, feminine things aren't only for females. Because when you do that, when you create these boundaries, you end up with a society where, there's a lot of internalized hurt, there's a lot of internalized damage. The problem with that is that comes out in later generations. You might pass that on to your children. You never know. What you don't put out, you put out in different ways, Sometimes you may put that out as negativity towards your children. You might put that out in ways where your child, I mean, if you look at it, we are all in a way replicas of our parents to some extent, right? And we pick up their positive and negative traits. And if we see poor men, or if we see inadequate men in our fathers, we tend to become that. So that's where the danger lies. You perpetuate it. That's where we need to change this. And this is why I'm very, very happy you started this conversation.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you. All right. Yes, yes. Why do men neglect their number 2, yeah. What role can workplace play in supporting men in mental health? Since you have been in the corporate and you have been heavily involved in doing training.
First step, Fauzul, is what you are starting. I mean, you have to start the conversation, right? That's a new conversation for everyone to get into. I mean, there's a lot of valuable insights. I think people will pick from it. Workplace has gradually moved to wellness now. There was a bit of illness from a medical cover. Went to sports days and little things like that, which is okay. But now I think, so Net will tell, there's a conversation about wellness. But I think it's still done at a more have to do HR thing versus more companies start believing in the real issues, that they can't just expect to say good morning to somebody and assume that their mind is stable and fresh to do their role. So if you really see, apart from 1 or 2 companies in this country, the role of a counselor is non-existent. I can actually name like 5 companies who will have a full-time counselor. But then on the other hand, you have targets, you have ups and downs, and there are so much of very pressurized environment. It's a pressure cooker in the corporate setup, but you don't have the fallback cushion, which is the counseling part. There's training and coaching. So I think those infrastructure has to now gradually fall in place, and the conversation will help. But I'm a believer in being active. I mean, that's the answer from my point of view. It's not the mind for me. If you're mentally active or physically active, your mind generally follows. So if corporates can also play a more proactive role of creating an active work environment. I mean, if you really realize people just come, get up in the morning, sit in the car, come and sit again, and sit again, and sit again. I mean, it's made to be inactive. But few companies have thought about walking around meetings, stand-up cultures. Because, see, this is the problem. We can actually do this discussion standing if you don't have to sit, right? But our default, sit. So, conscious restructuring of a workplace to build a more active lifestyle, and also what he said, moment you take the chair only, the community building happens. That's when you get out of a cubicle, you walk around. If everybody goes and sits in a seat, this is the constraint. Now they said, more than cigarettes, this is the killer. So, you can crash. Because this is the one you have to gradually get out, and if you take the chairs out, people are walking around. People are saying, hi, how are you? A lot of collaboration happens. So not to take the seats away. So the whole workplace, now that I'm not in the corporate sector, we'll have to restructure around the new lifestyle we want to believe. But we are going back to basics. Walking around, saying hello, how are you? Rather than everybody going into their little world. Laptop, cubicle, sit, that's it. So I think we have to rewrite the whole corporate workbook. Some places, like the more Gen Z places, have built in the open spaces and walk around and put a theater. But during the day, now, classic one, right? Now, my younger son went to a very big school here, my old school. But what happened, Madan, he never made to the sports scene. Because the big school is so big, only that top 1% guys will make it. The rest are irrelevant. So I had no choice. With a lot of hard take, I pulled him out and put to a small school. You know what they did? During the daytime, they take the kids for sport. And what happened? These guys started playing basketball. Now he loves it. He's not here in this. He takes a ball and now goes and plays. He's not in a team, but he plays like he started playing. So that's because the school is broken. School has broken. You go for rugby, you go for that. If you go for rugby, you can't go for that, then that's it. So then what happens? The kids are not playing. Either you sport or not. Work is also like that. We've built like that factory model from 19 industrialization. Still, it's a very, very factory model that we have. So if you want to build community, if you want to build this type of interactions, I think we'll have to break and remake. Larger companies will take time, but I think small businesses with entrepreneurs like you can show, and then the others will start following. So something like that. I hope I answered.
Perfect.
Yeah?
Just to add, today morning I sent him a message, just as what is the vehicle number and what the model. He's sending, give me a small space to park my bicycle. See, look at his body, slim, right? So I think he sets a good example to all of us. All right, thank you.
So one thing, with the new government, we are trying to promote tree cover in Colombo city. See, because of the Suddha's tree cover, we can still walk.
Yeah.
If you build the tree cover, people will walk from Kolpiti to Bambalapiti. So rather than planting, the whole tree planting happened inside jungles.
Yeah.
We have to plant trees along the road. So Premadasa's trees are the ones in Gamudava, near Parliament.
Yeah.
So to build that active lifestyle, there are few things the government has to do, corporates have to do. And if you start talking, people will get it.
Yeah.
So just to add that.
Good point, yeah. Right. Ajay. With Ajay, whenever I have an appointment, I never go on time. And he has enough time. I asked him yesterday, how do you find? He says, he was advising me, this is how you have to do things. All right. Ajay, each man is different with different capacity. You as a leader, how can you guide and get the most out of these men? Actually, he always... No, as I said, when he discuss anything, he put a lot of pressure. He wants perfect, nothing else, He wants everything perfect. So the man like this, I think you are the ideal person to answer that.
Yeah. So, I love the question. So what do you as leading men say to all these men, like on the side, like you just killed them before? So, well, it's I try to, the various pressures of work, right? Various pressures of work. Obviously, with the media infiltration, and you see there's a certain setting up of standards, right? And it's not been very easy in Sri Lanka, right? And one thing that I realized when I started my entrepreneurial journey 20 years ago is. And someone I was talking to recently, who's an established person, saying, "Oh my God, elections are coming." I said, "Okay." So I said, "Everyone has elections, right?" Then, and I met that guy recently, and I said, every time I meet you, there's a problem. Every time I meet you, there's always a problem. So first there was tsunami, then there was this thing, then there was this thing, then there was this thing. Like every year there's a problem. And I realized that we have a problem with the perspective, right? And I gave a talk 4 years ago, and I asked a group of people seated there, I said, tell me the most troubled or the worst place on earth right now. And a lot of people said Afghanistan. That's when that whole thing was going on. Remember, all those people are leaving, right? And I said, okay, so do you think, can there be a millionaire in Afghanistan? Think, can there be a guy who's like, who's the richest guy? Let's research the richest guy in Afghanistan. And then we researched, and there was a guy who lives in Dubai, but provides oil through this. I said, okay, so he's the richest guy. Now look at his lifestyle. People are getting bombed, people are getting this. He's making his millions right there, right? So how different is that guy, or how difficult is this guy's world versus a guy who wants to go to Mars? There's one guy on the earth who wants to go to Mars all the time. So how difficult is his work? Is going to Mars easy or doing businesses in Afghanistan easy? What is easy? It's a perspective, right? So if you don't have perspective, so you'll have a problem. So when people tell me, oh, the election's coming, I said, guys, I've been doing business in Sri Lanka for 29 years. I've never had a good year. But I've had best years and better years every year. Because I don't believe in the fact, the problem is the mental perception, right? So that's why you have Elon Musk, right, trying to go to Mars, crazy guy, and you have a guy in Afghanistan making millions. And we have problem with elections are coming. Oh my God, now the rain's going to come. Now, oh my, so many holidays. So work. So what's your perspective, right? So it's a question of, it's a mental perspective. And we are so, our minds are so trained in hearing conversations through, I think I can say this, we have another partner in our new group, okay, who's doing a new venture. Last night, he sent a message saying, I hope you heard that message. He said, we must meet our accountant to see our plight. And I picked the phone. I said, I never use words like plight. If you want to work with me in this company, then you have to change your culture. Because I never use word plight, right? I use words like challenges. I use words like, and then he said, oh no, I'm being honest. I said, I'm being honest as you are. The way you see a plight, I see a challenge. Right? So, and you to start changing. So now I told Fauzil as well, stop using words like, oh my God, oh my, no. You're creating a mental bubble and a problem because you don't understand that your words have power. When you say something, you should carry value behind it. And your energies come behind the word, right? Now, you asked me, right, what to tell men? So I'm telling you how to tell men, right? So how can you go out and perform well if you're already saying there's a problem, right? And my other problem is with my companies I am always starting new things every year. And I have the same team, right? I do far more things than Fauzil does, and I try very hard not to be late, right? And because it's a valuation of time. There's time is not running out. There's plenty of time. It's just a perception. So if you can shift your perception, and I was telling Doctor the other day, Sunet, 2 days ago, you get dictated by your external environment, right? No, your internal environment should dictate your external environment, is your number one thing. You can't be a slave to an external environment, right? And that's why you have a man going to Mars and a guy doing business and making millions in Afghanistan, because the external environment is not defining their character, it's the internal, right? So if you can start, it's a perspective. There's never a problem, and there's always a problem, right? So it's a perspective, and that's what I would give as an advice. Yeah.
All right. Good one. Thank you, Ajay. All right, Dr. Sunit. What is your advice to men who are struggling with mental health? I mean, those are the. Since you being a doctor, so I mean, this is a question which I would like to ask.
Right. So actually, that's a very deep question that you ask. What we can tell for men who struggle, because I can easily tell you, Mr. Hamid, that almost every man struggles with it. Find me one man who says, they'll say that they don't have it, but truly find me one man who's at peace with himself. They all have their internal demons, and they all have. A majority of them have substandard ways of dealing with it. So what I want, or what I expect of men, is at the very core to be in touch with who they are. They need to understand that every problem, like Mr. Ajay very, very clearly said, every problem has a solution. Even mental illness, I think Mr. King Ratnam mentioned this. Where is he? I didn't see him around. Ah, there you are. Thank you for bringing that up, actually. He made a very interesting point there where he said that, it's all in the mind. And men hide. They hide their feelings, they hide their emotions, and they hide mental illness also. The point that you made was when he said that mental illness, it's the word. When you say mental, in single you say pissa, you think of it as a pissua. And or in that, when we think of mental illness in that sense, it's a very broad spectrum. I mean, to be truly honest with you, I've gone to counseling as well. I've sought help whenever I had trouble. So that's how common this problem is. So my advice to men in this regard is simply accept and understand that we all need help. We are not islands. We can't function alone and be these rocks that society expects us to be. I mean, even if you take pop culture, how many movies do you see where men are sensitive or men are just normal human beings? I mean, the men that are throwing our faces are the Dwayne Johnsons and these built, buff, big dudes who you think would never have a problem in their life. And I mean, society builds this or paints this picture of men as pillars of strength and pillars of integrity, pillars of everything basically. And what do pillars do? Pillars bear weight, right? And we all bear weight, but not all of us are made of granite to hold that weight up. But all of us need to realize that we can get help. There is help out there, and you should seek it, and you should not feel less of yourself. You actually should feel more about yourself for seeking help. Because the first step of conquering mental illness, the very first step, is understanding or accepting the fact that you need help. One of the greatest joys of my life, or the day that I celebrate the most, is the day I realized I needed help when I was going through a bad patch in my life. Had I not walked into that counselor's room, had I not reached out, I may not even be here today. You can imagine it's very easy for a doctor to end his life, right? Unlike all of you, I could think of 100 ways easily to have done it without even being caught. But find me one man who hasn't thought of suicide even once in his life to end everything. Because Sri Lankans, again, I see this, it's very common, Sri Lankan men, women both, we have very less value in self. It's maybe the culture that we are brought up in, it's maybe the inputs that we get, but one of the first things we think of when we have a problem is, I need to exit. If I am not there, the problem is not there. And self-harm or suicide is a very, very selfish thing to do. You're just removing yourself from the equation, you're leaving behind so much hurt for everybody else to carry on with. You may be out of it, but it doesn't solve the problem, no? You're actually leaving more hurt for everyone around you. You're blowing up a bomb of hurt and exiting. So this is what I meant to understand. To summarize and actually answer your question is that, seek help. It's not, you are a better man, you're a stronger man. And in my eyes, you are a hero to accept that you need help.
Thank you. Excellent. Oh, yes, us again to you. How can men who struggle with mental health rebuild and reposition themselves?
I've got inspired by what the earlier question you asked on pressure. Now see what happened today. You had a plan, and suddenly rain. Now, if somebody was in charge, if you were not here, I was just thinking, let's take Fauzal out of it. I watched umbrella idea came from you. Then everybody struggled to what do we do? Decisions were moving around. I saw Ajay's way. He's ready to take the decision, but he can't, right? You're saying, we're watching, right? So this can be a very stressful night for an executive. Now let's say you walked in late, you are that type of boss. Now you are hands-on this now. You come and say, what the hell? Why haven't anybody moved? And today somebody is going home with a lot of stress. Now what happened? Whoever was part of the event planning has not, if that was the case, they were probably not equipped to do a risk analysis for this, right? If they did the risk analysis, they would have done option 1, option 2 and be ready. Now you were ready with 60 umbrellas. Lot of people have stress because they're incompetent in this country. Half of the bloody MBAs don't know what MBA stand for. Right? It's all master of business. This is the truth. A lot of people get away with shamming here because they came through the old boy network or somebody. So they get exposed, Maza. See, in another country, a guy who can cut a hair, he's a qualified bugger, Maza. He can cut all types of hair. He's not a bargain. So we have a lot of people who are surviving and shamming. when the going gets tough, they are not ready with the skill set. So then what happens is, they are it's like telling a guy who doesn't know Excel, I want a report half an hour. Now you're stressed. So there is that factor. We have to expose the lack of skill and then quickly get people to get skilled. Because if you're not skilled, you are bound to get stressed. I think that, how far does that affect depression? And because that's where your self-worth goes down. You get hammered in front of people, your confidence in the company, you get ridiculed. If you go to the root cause of it, your skill gap as a country we have everywhere. So we have a role to reskill people. Other one, last point, people are hiding behind passion. There is no passion, Maza. You have to be able to sweep the freaking floor well. That's the job. If you find the passion doing it, good for you. Then dance and sweep. But first, sweep it right, Maza. So, ekahinda there is a whole of bullshit happening. We are hiding behind lot of taglines, but we are not good at stuff, Maza. So, api has to fix it. They'll go around giving clinics and counselors. Paka doesn't know Excel. And he's stressed at home thinking, how do I now do it? No, freaking learn Excel, self-help. Otherwise, don't be at the discussion. So, this is my question. Excellent. But I had to tell it, this pressure comes because you're not good at it. Somebody, a 19-year-old kelima gedara giya. Gedara giya amma kanda deno. The parents are very happy, no problem. My son, I'll marry you, I'll look after your grandchildren, so they don't ever take the hits. They will just run away. The parents are there, no? In London, you can't run, where run? Well, mother is not at home. You have to pay your rent and your education loan. So, because the comfort zone, we are not ready. The structure is not there, but we don't have the skill set and that hunger to be good at something, so that, because as you get good at Maza, life becomes easier, just like any sport, and then you start relaxing and enjoying life. But so
fantastic. Just to add, Ajay, did you hear that umbrella story? So now that's why I get late. So I agree with you. See, if you want to be a leader, I've seen, especially in our country, right now, our leaders, how they destroyed this beautiful country. Those decisions, no vision, no passion, but they are leaders, right? Thank you very much, Ajay. For you again, how can men have work-life balance, which I always see you do it quite well?
Well, that's what everyone is striving for, no? Work-life balance, right? Well, I can tell you from my side how so I turned 54 years ago, and when I turned 50, so there are certain milestones that shake you. Okay, for like 40, and then you're now 50. Now what? Right? So at that point, I realized, how do I do this? Because at that 50, everyone's celebrating a 50th birthday, and you're the only one not celebrating. And you're thinking, okay, now like where's the passion? What else do you do? So at that point, I told myself, okay, I'm going to start doing something which I wanted to do when I was a teenager, to be a professional footballer, and I have to. I want to start doing it because nothing is impossible. So why do we do it? So then I went to play football and I got injured again and again, a few times, and I thought it was not for me. And I said, no, but then what else do I do? I'm 50 now. How do I have to change this thought process? So I read about it and I said, no, people are doing they're planning to live 1,000 years. Some are living 500, they want to do 200. So much of, they're saying that, what's that word they came up with? Longevity, escape velocity. So they're saying that there's so much of information around that each year that you live, you're living 4 months more than you would have lived if you were 10 years ago. Okay, so it's longevity, escape velocity. So because so much of information, medicine, exercise, awareness, all that. So they're saying in the next couple of years, each year you live, you would be actually doubling it. Right? So information is very important. So someone told me, let's there's this gym called Athletes Unleashed, you must go there. So I go and met this very fit-looking man, and and I told Bilal, I said, Bilal, look, he gave a little interview, and I said, I'm getting injured, and I'm spending more time in the hospital, and not in the hospital, being getting checked up, and I can't even go to the gym now. So I'm going reverse now. Earlier, at least when I was not playing football, I was going to the gym. I was not getting injured. Now it's so he said, I said, your role is I want to play football till I'm 60. So he said, okay, how about if I get you to play football till you're 80? I said, done. Okay. So then he said, okay, but don't play now. For 1 month, you're going to do this. So I started doing this. And I realized that I play football for a club, and I play with a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, all that, and I'm 54 now. I haven't got injured after that, so that's an endorsement for what this guy does. But something happened. So when I finished my first year, on my Instagram page, I took out my profession. I just wrote one thing there saying athlete. Okay, and when I put that thing as athlete, I realized. I was playing football on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I was going to the gym, Tuesdays and Fridays. I was going to the gym on Monday and Thursday. And in the middle was my entire week was, how do I play football? Right? And that I thought was a very drastic shift for me to go to the other side. And work was happening amazingly well. I was getting, new assignments, new projects. And I said, this is crazily crazy, because I wake up on Monday, I have to get to what he's told me, go to the thing, come back, eat right. Next day is my club match. Wednesday is my recovery. I go to a physio, whatever. So now I'm an athlete, right? So the moment I shifted that, everything was I said, what the heck? I was caught in the prison of work, right? And now I'm doing what I love doing, and I anyways love doing what I do. So Richard Branson said years ago that if you love what you do, you never have to work again. So that's very important. So that's how, those are certain principles that I try to live with, So yeah, that's what it is.
Good one. Thank you very much. Right. I think we are almost the last one. Doctor, it's a bit funny one, I would call it, or a tough one. As I said earlier, I've seen most of our politicians, right, where they behave in the parliament. And so I was thinking, how do they behave like that? Why do they behave like that, right? You have seen throwing files, chairs. So I was thinking whether are they mentally ill, or is it because of power, hungry?
Right, it's a very, very interesting question. I was telling Asas a few minutes ago, lucky, I hope I won't get white van for this answer, but hopefully that culture has changed now. So it's a very interesting question, Mr. Amir, that you ask, and I'll put it to you in the language that you speak, fashion, right? There are a few words that I live by, where I say style is acquired, but class is inherent, class is inborn. And style is something you can pick up. I wasn't born stylish. I learned how to style myself. But class, don't make the mistake of equating class with money. Class is not money. It's not wealth. To me, a man's class, or a woman's class, talk about men here, a man's class is how he responds in adversity. When you're up against the wall, when there's someone with a fist raised at you, when you're really, really struggling, how you react, how you respond in bad situations. So that comes from a lot of different things. It's not something that you learn willingly. It comes from your parents. It comes from your school. It comes from the people you associate. It is something that is deeply woven into your behavior, that it basically speaks about who you are. So you take men of little or no class and put them into positions of power. That's what you get. You saw the brawls that happened, the brouhaha that went on, where they threw things at each other. And these are the people who are governing us, right? We have put them there. You and I, we have put them there, right? And when you put people with little or no class into positions of power, they lose themselves. It's not, I wouldn't classify it as mental illness, but I would definitely put it under lack of class, a malignant lack of class. So there you have it. I mean, like I said, you can learn style, but your class is what defines you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I think we are almost in the final stage. Can we go one more question? Right. Ajay, and just as the last one, what is your, Ajay, what's the advice you can give all the men, small tip?
Define a purpose. Purpose. So I give myself purpose for each year, 5 year, 1 year. And if you have a purpose, and think about it, right? You want to impact something, do something, give yourself a purpose and stick to that purpose, and you'll see your energy will get locked into that. And your mental chemicals, your brain chemicals will start moving towards that purpose. So if you have to go to the gym, then I go to the gym every day this time. Do a physical activity, that's very important. Engage in a physical activity, give yourself a physical purpose, and your mind will just align yourself with that.
Yes, same question for you. What's your advice to the men?
Get physically active first thing in the morning. Active body, a fresh mind. Keep it simple, that's it.
Doctor, same question to you.
Right. I'd summarize this as be happy with who you see in the mirror every morning. If you're not happy with who you see in the mirror every morning, work your way there to make that person you see happy about himself.
Right, thank you. Is there any questions? Anyone has any questions to ask on the panel? Yeah, best question, we can give a gift voucher.
Yeah, hi. How can, as a young man, how can they find their purpose? What are some ways they can find their purpose?
Well, that's very interesting because like a purpose can be something very small as well, right? It could be when I was growing up, I wanted to be a professional footballer or in fashion, but I studied something completely. I did the MBA from a university, but not here. Yeah, that was in Sydney, right? And so moving from India to Sydney was a different. And I saw there's such a physical country. It's so physical, outdoorsy, right? So I had to realign my thinking. I said, what do I do here now? It's so different. And so it was a constant kind of a thing that, how do I anchor myself? Then I realized that your purpose is something that helps you anchor yourself, right? So whatever you can think of that can anchor you. It could be a physical activity. I think physical activity in today's day and world is 100% should be your purpose, okay? Get the physical activity as your first purpose, right? Get off the phone as your second purpose, right? Let's stick to that. The others will follow.
Can I quickly add a point on that? This is a very common point. Passion and purpose, right? So it also is confusing. First of all, if right now if your bills are not paid by your parents, that's where the answer gets clearer. The young ones who ask this question, whoever considers them young, is because you're not hungry. The guy who's hungry will go start from the dustbin. They're not going to look for passion, purpose, because they have to live. So that's a basic rung in the Maslow's hierarchy, right? Why are 80, with all due respect, why? Because this passion has been now injected, find your passion, not find your opportunity. The only people out of school can quickly go find their passion because the parents are paying the bill. Moment you take the parents out, you have to hustle. So what happens if you already got your parents paying the bills and you've got a bank account and they're paying for your degree and all of that, then it's a bit of a unfair advantage you have, if it's possible to park that aside and think for yourself, then you'll answer different questions. How do I pay my bills? How do I earn? In that process, you will find your passion and a purpose at some point. So, classic example for the Buddhist, only at the age 28 only he went looking for, that was possible because he had 4 houses and he had enough money for the wife to be fed. Otherwise, he would quickly come back and ensure the family is looked after. So, average Buddhist wants to achieve Nibbana at 18. Impossible, Masam, because you have to pay the bills.
Right. Anyone? Yes.
So, Yasas, you were just talking about if you are physically active, your mental state will be better. But then how do you manage your emotions by keeping fit or of that sort? How do you like for men to manage their emotions? Because emotions are a main factor in with mental health. All that.
Yeah. So I'm still a student of that the DNA or the chemical side of it, which is more biology. I was not in class, right? But what happens when you're physically active? It's a great start to the day, right? And also what happens is you learn things like resilience by sport, pushing for the extra, what Ajay said, right? Trying to build that whole athlete mindset. There is a set of values you build, how to fall and get up, how to be mentally tough, how to handle anxiety. I mean, the guy who's waiting for the whistle to go knows the anxiety on a block of a 50-meter pool, right? So there's a whole lot of that comes from this physical world. Outdoor life, play and all that. So it prepares you a lot better. So that prepares you the emotional challenges that you have, the losses, how to get up when you fall. Example, right? My father bought me a bicycle when I was 12 years old. And I can remember in my lane, I learned to balance the bike, and now I want to show him that I can ride a bike. So he's putting a walk and coming, the neighbors are watching, that about I fall, Maza. And then he walks and looks at me and he said, okay, then come home and went. Now embarrassing in front of everybody, I had to drag my bike and I went home. After dinner, he said, now how are you? I said, I'm okay. Then he said, in life you are going to fall. You will have to learn to get up by yourself. So my point is that active lifestyle, when you're pushing for either sport or now example in my case, I call myself a cyclist the day I left the bank. So for some reason, I am trying to improve my cycling on a daily basis. I've broken a collarbone. So that the emotional part that comes with failure, others' expectation. So moment I walked in, Fauzu said, yes, where's your coat? Because he suddenly forgot that I don't have a coat. I mean, I said, but I don't have a coat, I don't wear a coat, you know that, right? And I forgot, and you know. So
he has them upstairs, by the way.
Yeah. So the emotional part that comes as a result of expectation, management, what others think of you, all of that, unfairness in sport, right? If you play sport for Royal College, you playing with the parents. Then you learn the unfairness. So from that active lifestyle of sport, you learn a lot of lessons that prepare for you. So that's where I come from. But then if somebody goes through trauma, tragedy in life, that emotion much, and that's not as simple as what I said. But there's a large part that can be addressed by being active, and your mind follows an active body, and it's generally has worked for me, and that's just my view.
Actually, can I add something
Please,
to this?
yeah,
Right? Something very interesting that will actually give you a better perspective of what you said. To answer your question, our emotions are basically chemicals, right? Playing around in your brain. And our happiness is largely dependent on dopamines, or we call them endorphins. And exercise is the safest and the best way of getting endorphin release. All the other ways of endorphin release are bad for you. There's either pornography, which is, again, addiction, bad, alcohol, cocaine, drugs, all of that, right? All of them give a short-term endorphin high. But exercise maintains your endorphins at peak levels most of the time. So when endorphins are high, right, now you take mood. Mood is cyclical. Your mood isn't always happy, isn't always sad. It cycles between good and bad. And the median line of this is our basal mood, right? Exercise regularly raises this base level of mood. And when your base level of mood goes up, your perspectives change. Exactly. What you said starts to happen, right? You don't see your problems being as bad as they were had you been not on an endorphin high. I mean, that's a simple thing. We've all gone through this. We've all had a good day where you feel good about yourself. And when you are faced with a problem, right, you may actually think of solutions for this and not be affected by it. But the same thing can happen when you're having a really bad day, a really, really awful day. And that day, this problem defines you. It starts to make you sink into the ground and you can't figure yourself out. I mean, you can't figure yourself out of it. So if your base level mood is always elevated, and people who work out, you would know this, Bilal, your perspective simply changes.
You know, just to add to this, I just saw this somewhere just recently, and he captured it really well. Was so this is a doctor from India on a thing. He said, when you think of going for an exercise, your dopamine already is kicking in, right? You go, you work out, and your endorphins kick in, and they kick in. They maintain that for a few hours, right? So you keep on that high. You go again, right? Then your serotonin kicks in, and then you stay on that happiness, like a general happiness mood, right? You keep doing that more, right? You go into oxytocin,
Oxytocin, yes, correct.
Yeah, the last one. There what happens is you reach a level of like self-love, because you're feeling, I can't believe I'm in such a good place, But it starts with that whole focus on how you're going on the exercise. Once the chemical starts getting released, then you look at your perspective changes. Then you're, looking at everything very differently. So yeah, you got a well-rounded answer for that, huh?
All right.
Yeah, good question, buddy.
All right. I think time is running, right? Everyone has to get back tomorrow work. So I will hand over to my good friend King to wrap up. And I would like to thank my panelists. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Yasas, Ajay. And thank you, everyone, for joining. And let's meet again, maybe next month. And I hope it won't rain. And
doesn't matter. We still do this, right?
Yeah. And let's see. Let's keep learning. There's a lot to learn. And like Ajay says, the mobile phone is something which we all have to learn something. But he's the one who sent me more messages and more calls. Right? And he says, Fauz, you're not organized. All right. I hope you all enjoyed. And once again, thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.